is Oregon headed to the Big Ten? I want to play this sound from Big Ten Media Day yesterday because I think it is really meaningful what Kevin Warren, the commissioner of the Big Ten, said. He's not going to name Oregon by name. But in my opinion, it is very clear that the Big Ten is far from done when it comes to expansion.
It may include future expansion, but it will be done for the right reasons, at the right time, with our student athletes, academic and athletic empowerment at the center of any and all decisions that we will make regarding any further expansions. We will not expand just to expand. It will be strategic. It will add additional value to our conference.
He's talking about Oregon.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who else would he be talking about?
Yeah, first of all, amazing job of coach speaking and talking around it while still talking about it. Incredible job, number one.
I don't see how they don't add Oregon and Washington tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that is the most obvious move. You just went and added a Los Angeles footprint.
Yeah.
If you add the Pac Northwest, you're done. Like, that is, you're the number one conference in college football revenue-wise. And I think I could make a pretty good argument that that helps every team in that conference recruit. And as flawed as I think college football is right now, that would be a huge testicular, look at my nuts on your face, we're winning championships.
Here's my thing, though.
That's probably too much.
I don't disagree that it helps them revenue-wise. It makes them a better conference. I mean, there's pretty much no downside to it. I don't think we can definitively say any of this expansion stuff makes the Big 12 or the Big 10 the best conference out there until they prove that they can consistently beat the SEC. That's the one thing that I think will remain to be seen. Like, I think, again, from a business perspective, from a money-making perspective, it's great. But when it comes down to it, does adding, teams like Oregon and Washington or the Utahs of the world, whatever it is, does adding those teams make it so then, your help in recruiting, your help in revenue, your help on TV deals, does that help you beat Georgia, Alabama, LSU, like these big-time nameplate SEC schools? Because once that starts happening, then I think college football is extremely healthy, when you actually have an equal playing field where everyone can compete. That's what I think is interesting.
Yeah, and I want to play it again because I think it's a really important thing. This is Kevin Warren. He was at Big Ten Media Day yesterday, and he was being asked, he was taking questions from reporters, and he was asked if the Big Ten is done expanding. The commissioner of the Big Ten, Kevin Warren.
It may include future expansion, but it will be done for the right reasons, at the right time, with our student athletes, academic and athletic empowerment at the center of any and all decisions that we will make regarding any.
I think that right there tells you in the right time for the right reasons. That's right now. I mean, there is no doubt. And the reason I say that is I don't think anybody argues that the Big Ten is moving aggressively to become the powerhouse of college athletics.
Yeah.
And what that means is, to be the powerhouse of college athletics, you've got to win the football games. You've got to win national championships. It's not good enough anymore to just have Ohio State, because I don't think anybody in this room believes in Michigan.
Yeah.
You have got to have more than Ohio State, because Penn State ain't it. Michigan ain't it. Like, you look at what's in the Big Ten now, that's Ohio State's conference, in my opinion.
Yes.
In football. I look at adding USC and UCLA. That's a huge move in basketball for UCLA, but it's a power flex in football for USC. You add Oregon to that mix, you bring in Phil Knight's money, you bring in Nike's influence. That's a power move in college football. So when he talks about the right time, the right place for the right reasons, there's no better, educational institution than Oregon. There is no better, in my opinion, financial move to grow the conference than bringing in Phil Knight's Oregon Ducks, right? So all of the things he talked about are specifically pointed, in my opinion, right at Oregon. It makes complete sense. But the other thing that this does, and the thing that I think is so important to talk about, is this supports my opinion that the Pac-10 is dead. It's over. There is no momentum moving forward. You're talking about a TV contract, and if you lose Oregon, again, the things that we're saying about TV contracts, I just don't know how the Pac-12 can survive without USC and UCLA.
Yeah, well, they're going to need a handout. I mean, that's what you're going to need. You're going to need an influx of some
but
variety.
Let's say you get the biggest handout possible. What is, if you're the Pac-10 right now, Pac-12, Pac-10, suck it, whatever you want to call it. If you're the Pac-12 right now, what is the best case scenario? Well, likely that you add a Boise State and a San Diego State.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's get crazy. Let's say you actually go to the Big 12 and you're able to steal Oklahoma State. It makes absolutely no sense. Anybody in Stillwater is going to tell you, well, they're just a bunch of hippies out there in California.
That's pretty much self-explanatory.
Okay, so who are you going to steal from the Big 12?
Yeah.
Who are you going to steal? There's nobody there to steal that is a fit. Well, we're over here with the educational institutions. We're researchers. We don't take the Mormons. And we're just better than you. But who are you going to... Is that San Diego State? Is that Boise State? I'm telling you, San Diego State and Boise State's top of the mountain for the Pac-12. Whereas the Big 12, top of the mountain is the Arizona schools, Utah, Colorado, Oregon, Washington. Like, there's major upward trajectory for the Big 12. Tell me the best case scenario and what argument you can make for the Pac-12 to survive.
Yeah, and $30 million a year for schools is not going to get it done.
And which is my point when we're talking about money and we're talking about TV deals.
Yeah.
ESPN, best case scenario for the Pac-12, no doubt about it. ESPN comes in and you make a deal with them. And the best deal you can make, you hit a home run with ESPN. That's $40 million a school. That's less than the Big 12's making right now. Oh, by the way, you wonder what the Big 12's trying to do? Well, why don't we hear from Mac Rhodes, the athletic director at Baylor, who was on 365 Sports. Listen to what Mac Rhodes, the athletic director at Baylor, who, by the way, is already on the record saying, hey, we are going to aggressively expand and grow our footprint.
Yeah.
The athletic director at Baylor has said, we're going to grow. We're trying to expand. Listen to what he said when 365 Sports asked him about a potential TV deal.
I am really optimistic that we will be same level in terms of last year of the Big 12 contract or better. I do believe that, and that's with 12 members rather than 10 members.
What did he just say right there? He never said the words Texas or Oklahoma. He never said that. He said with 12 teams instead of 10.
Mm-hmm.
So what did he do right there? He took Texas and Oklahoma out of the conversation, and he injected BYU. He injected Cincinnati, Houston, Florida. He injected their coming institutions, the schools coming into the conference, right? So you start to get this idea that, okay, well, they're at $46.5 million per school now. Third in college athletics, not good, but not bad.
Right.
With 12 schools, including BYU, they're going to get to $60 million.
Facts.
And again, if the Big 12, and I'm going to play this bite again here in a minute, if the Big 12 does that proposed TV deal with Notre Dame, where Notre Dame stays independent, and I think this could be best case scenario.
Yeah.
Notre Dame stays independent. But you have a situation where you have a Big 12 game before Notre Dame football and after Notre Dame football on NBC and all of the NBC family networks. So USA Network, the Peacock, streaming app. So you're getting major TV and you're getting major streaming. What if that deal's $75 million a year per school, which teams have surmised it would be?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're not so far behind the Big Ten. Now you're not so far behind the SEC financially. And oh, by the way, now all of a sudden, teams like Washington and Oregon are open for a conversation. Teams like Arizona State are open for business. They're open for a conversation.
Money talks.
And my point is, the Pac-12 can't even get a seat at that table. Oh, BYU, you know what? This is Pac-12 country. Just go look at that billboard. What does that mean anymore? What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. So again, listen to this bite. Mack Rhoades, the athletic director at Baylor. Keep in mind, right now, today, I believe the number for the Big 12 is they make $46.5 million per school in their TV deal.
I am really optimistic that we will be same level in terms of last year of the Big 12 contract or better. I do believe that, and that's with 12 members rather than 10 members.
I'm telling you. That's Mack Rhoades, athletic director at Baylor on 365 Sports.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, if Baylor is right,
yeah,
and they're making $60 to $70 million a year, if they're making anything more than $50 million a year, man, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Man, you are in trouble.
Yeah, I just don't think there's an angle. I agree with you. I don't think there's an angle for the Pac-12. I don't think that there's an angle for that conference to compete. That's the problem. It would be one. It's two different things. So like, it would be one thing to say, okay, well, you've lost, SC and UCLA. Okay, yep, that was a big hit to the conference. But we have a way to replace that revenue. We have a path potentially to put some money together to be 50, 60 a school, 50, 60 million a year for schools. If they had a path of that nature, then, okay, yeah, maybe they can survive. But because you don't have a path, because there are no obvious replacements, because you can't get schools from the Pac-12 or schools from the Big 12 to come to the Pac-12, where else are you going to go? And that's why I say, the only option in my eyes is a merger, like of major variety, like the Big 12 and the Pac-12 just coming together. That to me is your only path here. Or obviously just dissolving the conference altogether, having the bottom feeders go to the Mountain West and having these nameplates like I've been talking about going to the Big 12 or the Big 10.
Yeah, and I think one of the other conversations you've got to have here is how much leverage does BYU have in favor of the Big 12? Because it's interesting that a lot of Pac-12 supporters and a lot of Utah supporters specifically are talking about, like, Utah Pig Bus is a guy I love following on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's one of the best Utah boosters in the business. And he's talking about last night how BYU doesn't have a brand and how the Big 12 doesn't have a school with a brand. And I'm just saying to myself, like, bro, what are you looking at? Like, and if we're being in all honesty, just be truthful about it, right? Like, we sit here every day and we tell you we're the truth in Salt Lake City sports talk. Well, let's do that. How powerful is BYU? What does BYU mean to the Big 12? Well, they've won a national championship, right? I mean, has Oregon won a national championship? No, they haven't. Has Oregon put Hall of Famers and all pros into the NFL on a regular basis? Is Oregon a QB university? It's not. They haven't. When I look at BYU, you want to talk about brand? Let's talk about brand. BYU's got a bigger brand than just about anybody left in the Pac-12. Outside of USC football. Point to me the football brand in the Pac-12 that is bigger than BYU's brand. Because I got news for you. And you're going to hate it if you're a Utah fan. You're not that guy. BYU's got a bigger brand than Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about fan base around the world and missionaries in Guatemala. I'm talking about football. I'm talking about, let's see what you've done. Because BYU has a national championship. Everybody says, well, Utah puts guys in the NFL. Got news for you. How many Super Bowl rings recently has BYU won? Because I think it's a pile. And if I look at guys like Kyle Van Noy and Danny Sorensen, who had no business being in the NFL draft. Well, Danny Sorensen's put together a pretty nice career with the Chiefs.
Facts.
And Kyle Van Noy has won multiple rings. And if you go through the history of time, BYU's actually built a pretty nice brand. And I haven't even mentioned that they went through a decade of independence and they didn't have a seat at the table They're just that little guy down south there. All the Mormons and their white salamanders. Well, that's all good and well. They went through a decade of independence, and they essentially came out the other end a shining diamond of how to succeed in college football. They've made millions. They bring tremendous value in that every time you put their game on TV. By the way, did I mention that all of their games are on ABC or ESPN?
Does that have value?
There's that little thing, and that's 1 million people. We just talked about how late night TV in the Pac-12 is amazing because it brings 1 million people to the TV. Well, so does BYU, week in and week out. And you can hate it, and you can tell me I'm a BYU homer. I'm not a BYU fan. I'm not from Utah, but we tell the truth on this show. And the truth is that BYU has a much larger brand than Utah. And I think they're just as big and they have more leverage here now today than just about any other school. And the only one you can argue is Oregon. And I think BYU, their track record of success, a national championship, Heisman Trophy winners, like you can go up and down the list with Hall of Famers like Steve Young, Super Bowl champions like Kyle Van Noy. You have arguably the best linebacker in football. They put guys in the NFL. And BYU's got tremendous leverage. And I think part of the power of the Big 12 is that BYU is now a member.
Yeah.
So we can sit here and we can go round and round about brand power and, the Pac-12, and you could keep looking down your nose, but you're not going to see BYU there anymore. Because BYU's up here and you're down there now. You need BYU. And that's the amazing part of this. We talk about seat at the table. I don't know how to break this to you, but there's not a team not named Oregon, and that includes Washington, by the way. There's not a team that isn't named Oregon that's got a seat at the table at the moment. Because Stanford and Washington State and Oregon State and the Arizona schools don't have a home. Because I'm telling you now, the Pac-12 is dead. So cool on you for paying for a Pac-12 country billboard. Cool on you. But before you start talking all of this garbage about how BYU doesn't have a brand and the Big 12 doesn't have any more leverage than the Pac-12 has, do some math and understand the history of college football. Okay, I feel better.
You're so fucked.
I feel better.
Good. Excellent. I agree with you, by the way. I agree with you.
I've just gotten to the point where I'm over the BS.
Yeah.
The Big 12, if the Big 12 wants to measure like horns on a steer, let's do that. But at some point, you got to go and get the job done because the Big Ten's getting the job done.
Well, and I think that, the elephant in the room is the sentiment from Utah to BYU over the last decade hasn't exactly been friendly.
It's back to bite you in the ass right now.
Yeah, and that's what I think, and again, not even hating on Utah fan. Like, that's what I think Utah fan doesn't want to talk about. That's what I think Utah fan has no appetite for. Hey, you've been talking a bunch of junk and hating on BYU for the last decade, and now BYU, went through their time. They took their beating. They've, figured out independence, and now obviously are in the Big 12. And now you're going to have to figure out how to survive your beating and whether you're going to the Mountain West or whether you're actually going to be able to get into the Big 12. I do think that Utah going to the Big 12 makes a whole lot of sense. Who doesn't want the Holy War every single year? I think it makes perfect sense. But again, I have to agree. Anybody not named Oregon is not at the table right now, and that's the problem. Like, I am concerned about Utah. I am concerned about the Arizona schools. Like, I am concerned about Washington. These are, not so much the Arizona schools in my opinion, but Utah and Washington, dude, those are nameplates. Those are crowning jewels in the Pac-12. These are teams that need to be in a P5, and when they're not, and they're in the Mountain West, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think one of the things that's really interesting to me is just the hate for the Big 12. And I mean, mainly, the assumption the Big 12 is dead. Financially, I just don't see that. Greg Hawkins, thank you for the $5 tip. He says, I hate BYU, but hey, if you give them $50+ million a year for athletics in a power conference, they're going to become a powerhouse, especially under Kalani. Dude is a stud. Kalani Sitake is a stud. There's no other way to put that. I mean, the guy is proven. The guy is absolutely proven.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Big Mugamba says the right reason equals money. The right time whenever the money comes. Yeah, and I think right now Oregon's the money in the Pac-12. Oregon is the money in the Pac-12. You know, like it is what it is. Greg says, hey, BYU, I know we've had our problems and we've beat that ass 9 of the last 10 years, but can you put in a good word for us in the Big 12? Sincerely, Greg. Exactly. Luis Ortega says, hey, Jazz fan from Yucatan, Mexico.
What's up, man?
Good to see you, Mexico. Appreciate you guys being here. Let's run through some of these comments. Jermaine Bell says the SEC needs to consistently play the other leagues. Well, I don't know that the SEC needs to do anything because Coach Saban, he's running that town.
The SEC can do what they want, when they want, how they want. It's just that simple. They're the best league in the country. Yeah. Like, they are the most dominant. They're better than you, and they have no problem telling you they're better than you.
I agree. Ryan Scandura says, wait until the SEC teams realize they don't need the NCAA. Well, that's the other thing here. When are all these big boys with deep pockets going to figure out they don't need the NCAA?
Yeah.
When's that going to happen? Rent says super conference is lame. Only 2 will matter, Big Ten and SEC. Well,
we'll see.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see.
Right? Gabe Ledley says GCU alum and Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren. There you go.
Yep.
It all comes back to GCU. Does it not? I think it does. Let's see. Rant says USC will rise up eventually. They will. SC's back.
College football needs SC.
SC is back. Kurt Meyer says BYU is solid. The biggest challenge now is they need Mrs. Monty to chaperone the new players to keep the honor code.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's not wrong. That's not wrong. I don't disagree with that. Jordan Clarkson destroys ankle says, come on, man. BYU went to the Big 12 so they could keep living in the U's shadow.
Nah.
And this was the moment Kay Nuren's head exploded and nothing would be the same again. It's probably true. Kay, are you okay over there? You feeling it? Ruff's official says Fox Sports is just as good as ESPN. Oh, stop.
Nah, that's not even a conversation, bro.
Stop.
I'm sorry. It's just
Ruff
not.
says Fox Sports is just as good as ESPN, especially with the NFL and MLB. Look up Fox Sports ratings versus ESPN. Do I entertain this?
No. No.
Fox Sports doesn't have the multi-platform reach. You're talking about TV. I'm talking about life. It's ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ESPN app, ESPN Plus, ESPN.com. Like, you're trying to compare Fox Sports, who's a minnow, to ESPN that's like an orca or the
biggest shark in the ocean.
What is
bro?
the biggest whale? A sperm whale? I got a sperm whale for you. Travis Bird says every conference in America would love to have the University of Utah into its conference. They would add style and grace and a pretty face. See, that's a song. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I think Utah is a great program.
Yeah.
They're coming off of arguably the best season in the history of the program.
The problem is they're on the back foot right now. You have to figure out how to get to the Big 12. It's that simple.
Yeah, I don't disagree. NY Jazz fan says, I just hope things work out where it will create some space for different teams to make the college football playoff rather than the ACC teams dominating. I'm tired. I'm not a
Well, first of all, the ACC teams don't dominate the college football playoff. There's one ACC team that gets there. The SEC dominates the playoff.
I think the ACC gets deference because of the names that are there. And I think...
I get what other name besides Clemson has there been? I mean...
Florida State?
I guess. When's the last time Florida State was in the college football playoff?
Several years ago.
But come on, hold on. We're not. No.
Florida State is a legacy college football brand.
The SEC runs the college football playoff. It's Alabama and Georgia every single year. Like
it is, and I agree. The ACC is another conference in major trouble here. I mean, there's no question about that. We'll see what happens. I think there are brands in the ACC, but they don't get close to the. Florida State is not the brand that Florida is. I mean, Florida is a bigger brand than Miami. Florida is a bigger brand than just about any. Florida is a bigger brand than Clemson.
Yeah.
I mean, but who's going to win the ACC this year? Well, they already crowned Clemson.
The ACC is a basketball conference, man, not a football
I would agree
conference.
with that. I would absolutely agree with that. I would agree with that. Ruff's Official says BYU does have a big following, but they still have a weak schedule. BYU has a weak schedule?
Okay, moving along.
I'm
sorry, man. I just can't. Dude, BYU doesn't have a weak schedule. BYU has one of the best schedules around, like they do every year. That's one of the reasons they struggle.
There's just no way to spin the fact that BYU has been an unequivocal success as an independent.
Yeah.
There's no way to spin that. Their schedule making is how business is done in college football. And, frankly, their biggest issue is they've had to knock off big brands off their schedule to fit into the Big 12. And yet you're still playing. Anyway, I don't.
Now, if you want to say, hey,
I really don't.
If you want to say, hey, BYU is going to take their beating in the Big 12 for the first couple of seasons, that's a conversation I can get down with. Hey, like, how competitive is BYU going to be in the first 3 to 4 seasons in the Big 12? Can they compete for a conference championship? Can they be, top 3? I don't know. We have that remains to be seen. I can tell you this: it's a bad look to go into a conference and finish bottom 5. I can tell you that. So there's definitely pressure to perform.
Well, and I also think, if you think about who's BYU got on their schedule, Arkansas, obviously Notre Dame. We're giving away a trip to that game, by the way.
Baylor.
A trip for 2. Baylor.
Oregon.
I mean, to say that they have a weak schedule is kind of ridiculous. Yeah. Anyway, let's keep rolling. Oh, look who's back. Dax Johnson.
Johnson.
How's your Johnson, Dax? He says, morning, boys. Been a while. Love the show and go Cougs. Appreciate you being here. What's up, Dax? Mike Maple says they negotiated their own contract with ESPN because of their brand. Exactly right.
Yes.
Exactly right. Tanner Plummer says, careful with the white salamander reference. That triggers a lot of Latter-day Saints.
Well,
it was a joke. And not our joke, by the way. Brandon Whiteside says, college sports is so lame. Conference competing more compelling than their actual games. Well, the off-field news is by far more compelling.
I don't disagree, man. I don't disagree.
Yeah, K. Nurin says, thanks again for the truth and nothing but the truth. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You are welcome. Let's see. Ruggs89 New York says, how does Ainge run the NBA? Please explain. Well, you can go back to the beginning of the show and catch an hour of that because we did
we did about an hour on it. Go back.
By the way, we're 2 days away from making that announcement.
Yep.
It is 7:55 Mountain.
Yep.
We are 48 hours and 5 minutes.
Yep.
Let's see. Daniel Westover says, LOL, comments about BYU having a weak schedule. COVID year doesn't count. This year they have Oregon, Notre Dame, Baylor, Stanford. Stanford is the one I was forgetting. And Arkansas. They look for big games. And they've had to take teams off their schedule.
How pissed was Tennessee when BYU went there and beat that ass? How pissed was Texas when Taysom jumped over everybody? Don't tell me that BYU has weak scheduling. In fact, one of the reasons BYU has struggled to be a double-digit win team every year is because the schedule is so deep. That's their problem.
K. Nurin says, I'd rather play BYU or have BYU play Notre Dame every year than Utah. No. Sorry.
No, yeah. Sorry.
Hey, I need the Holy War every year.
And hey, listen, we're sending you to BYU Notre Dame. Like, we're doing that. But the Holy War is by far more desirable.
Have to. Greg Hawkins says, I hate USC. I think everybody hates USC. Jerks, he says, exactly. Kurt Meyer says, college football needs the Holy War every year. Every single year.
Agreed.
James Knight says, I have nothing but BYU radio.
BYU radio.
And nope. Let's see. Brett Robbins says, bros, FS1 has Bayless. Fox is Peach.
I saw it.
Dax Johnson says, love the show, boys. Cannot be more excited for the Big 12 in 2023.
My God, dude.
I'm with you. I am with you. Let's see. What is I missed the reference.
Are we having a throwdown here in the comments?
No, I guess on some level. Let's see. Tanner Plummer says, I'll do you one better, Greg. Jake, give me the you're welcome drop, please.
Okay, let me find this here.
You're welcome.
Yeah, sorry. A little slow on the drops today.
Oh, come on.
There we go.
You're welcome.
There you go.
Brett Robbins says Boise and Stanford. Okay. Dax Johnson says, I love the white salamander. Don't start. Kurt Meyer says BYU owned the pack last year. They did. Spurs 5X champ says Notre Dame will crush BYU.
We'll see.
BYU's bigger. BYU's got to stay healthy.
But here's the thing. This is what you can't get away from. Let's say that Notre Dame does crush BYU. Let's say that happens. That doesn't matter. They're still getting paid. They're still on. They're still on TV. They're still like that's what I mean. Like you can't. Number one, you can't say the schedule sucks. But then number two, you can't even complain when they lose because they're still raking in the cash. That's
they're
the problem.
recruiting.
Yeah,
and they've got Kalani. Top Junkie says, what the heck? Why is Utah dominating the sports talk world this summer? Danny Ainge, BYU, Utah. Like, yeah, it's crazy.
And for a variety of different reasons. Like the Utah football conversation is kind of a panicked one right now. It's kind of a negative. It's kind of a lot of anxiety in that. Uh-oh. Here we go.
Brandon Whiteside with perhaps the comment of the day.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Okay.
He says, NBA conference realignment, Minnesota to the East.
Yes. Well played.
Brandon,
well played.
Welcome to the show.
Well played.
NY Jazz fan says the BYU hate on U of U and the U of U hate on BYU is so dumb. They make each other better programs from competition in all categories. One wouldn't be where they are without the other. Steel sharpens steel. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. So Brett Robbins says, do you got to be in Chi-Town to be a Jordan fan? No, you don't.
Nope.
You don't. Not at all.